Hi, I'm Norman Perolo, a furniture designer maker at Perolo Design and woodworking educator at WoodSkills, and today I'll be talking about the variety of bench planes and jointing planes and block planes you can use in your furniture making and woodworking. They range from a small apron plane to two types of block planes, bench planes, both wooden and metal bodied bench planes, and a jointing plane. A jointer plane, this is a number 7, which I use mostly in my work, but you could move up to a number 8 or even use a number 6 for smaller jointing, for shorter boards. Or you could go the wood bodied hand plane route. These are two hand planes that I made over 22 years ago that I use occasionally in my work, but I mostly use metal bodied hand planes now. These planes come from fairly large U.S. manufacturers and Canadian manufacturers, Veritas typically, and Lee Nielsen, and I use these mostly in my work, and I'll actually delve into each of the hand planes and how you can apply them to your own woodworking and furniture making. So you could actually select from the bevel down type of plane or a bevel up plane, like in a low angle jack. It's a little more versatility with this plane. You can, by just replacing the iron with a different angle, you can change the application of the hand plane from more of a high angle hand plane to a low angle hand plane, or use the conventional bench type hand planes and either get a high angle frog or a conventional 45-degree frog. And these hand planes are set at 45 degrees. These are bevel down planes, these wood body planes, and this is also a bevel down plane. This is a number 7, and it has it's a compromise between a number 6 and a number 8. The number 8 I found a little bit, although it has more mass and it works for very long boards, to your advantage. The number 7 works equally well. It's a little lighter, so it's not as tiresome to use over a long period of time. Now, I do use a couple of block planes. I use both a low angle at 37 degrees and a standard angle 45 degrees, and most people are not aware that block planes do come in 45 degree standard angle smoother. I use it as a small smoother in my work, and I like it because it's a one-handed plane, so I can hold the board and use this plane at 45 degrees. My much preferred option of block planes is definitely the low angle 37 degree, and this is the one I recommend for your furniture making. It has more versatility. It's also a one-handed plane, but it does end grain work far better than the 45 degrees. And the apron plane is a good compromise. It's a smaller one, so it doesn't have an adjustable mouth, but it's very light. It's much lighter than even the two block planes I've just shown you. It's very versatile, and I use it for chamfering or creating small bevels or profiles on the edges of boards or small components in my furniture making. So I'll be delving into and discussing the variety of hand planes you can use in your furniture making and woodworking. So stay tuned, and hopefully you'll be far more familiar with hand planes in your own furniture making after having watched the rest of the video. I'm Norman Perolo from WoodSkills, and I'd like to talk about a few woodworking books I've written. My recent book is Quiet Woodworking in an Unquiet World. It talks about my movement to hand tools, from high-tech to low-tech, a woodworker's journey, which chronicles my journey from my former high-tech career to my current furniture making career. Along with that, I offer courses through woodskills.com. The courses range from a basic woodworking course right through to furniture design and a comprehensive design and making course. All books are available in both print and digital format. The topic is my go-to planes. The hand planes are more likely to pick up in my furniture making on a day-to-day basis. I have, as you can see behind me, I have quite a large collection of hand planes, and I've got 2 other hand plane racks and these are restored vintage planes on these lower shelves. It's a fairly recent addition. So I have many planes available to me, and I can of course get even more. But the topic revolves around my go-to planes, and the reason I bring this up is because if you're just starting out, you're better off just acquiring the hand planes you need for the furniture making or the type of woodworking you do. instead of just accumulating or just purchasing a large number of hand planes that you might or might not need. I've been at this for decades, so I've accumulated a large selection of hand planes, but I've learned a lot along the way about what planes are really important in the style or the type of woodworking or furniture making I do. I'll just give you an idea of the 4 or 5 hand planes I tend to use most for the most part. So I'll start with the smallest plane. This is an apron plane. This is available from different manufacturers. Veritas, Lee Nielsen, some other more recent manufacturers, but it's a one-handed plane, and it's essentially a small block plane. And I tend to use it because I can pick it up and chamfer the edges of the long edges of boards, or chamfer the ends of boards very easily. It's a very light plane, solid plane, but it works at I do a lot of edge work with it, and working with small components. I can also joint small components and trim small components. A component this size, for example, I can pick it up and actually just simply, just reverse it and just joint the edge, the long edge, so that there isn't much involved there. And so this is the beauty of this plane. So it's called an apron plane. So this is I tend to use this a lot. Next up is smoother plane. Now the smoother plane, you can get multiple versions of a smoother plane. This happens to be my go-to plane. It's a number 4.5. It's a little wider than a 4. It's a little heavier than a 4 too. But that also becomes an advantage to added mass. It's easier to actually glide along a board because it's heavier and it's more stable and more likely to not shatter, and even with the thicker blade, because of its mass and its weight. So this is another plane that I tend to pick up. Having said that, that's a 4.5. It's a wider than a 4. I have 4s available to me. This is another 4 that I tend to pick up too, but not as often as a 4.5. I've set the 4.5 up to a certain thickness of shaving, so I tend to pick that up. But this is another plane that's equally good. It's a number 4. It's actually a cast bronze body, so it's very, very heavy for a plane of this size. You can invest in something like this, or a steel or an iron body version of it. As an example, this is an iron body version. It's a very ubiquitous common record, number 4. This is probably what you'd want to start with if you're not interested in the heavier mass and the width of a 4.5. Number 4 is fairly standard as a beginner plane. It's a versatile universal plane in the workshop. So this is a record plane, and I've replaced a lot of the irons on these record planes from 1/8 to about 3/16 in thickness. This is a slightly smaller version of the same. It's a number 3, and it works really well too. It's lighter, so it's able to do smaller work. And I tend to pick this up too if I'm working on smaller components, furniture components. But again, my real go-to is number 4.5, and what I like about it is the added width of it. It's a little wider than the 4, so I can actually joint and work wider boards. There's less planing involved per stroke. Another plane I use very often is a number 7 jointer. Now early on I had a decision to make sure I get a number 7 or a number 8, and I decided after researching it and listening to other woodworkers, I've decided on number 7. And number 8 is considerably larger and heavier, and it's kind of unwieldy for its application. So number 7 is ideally suited as a jointer plane. So I use this a lot. I use this for longer boards, the joint edges and the dress surfaces of boards. So this is my go-to plane for that application. Now, having said that, I also tend to use this wood body jointer. It's a little shorter, but I like the fact that it's a wood body and it glides along much smoother than any metal body plane. So I tend to use this a lot too. This is actually a plane I designed and created 22 years ago, 2002, 2003 time frame, when I was actually marketing some wood body hand planes. So I kept some as for nostalgic reasons, but I tend to use them. Another plane I tend to use very often is more of a specialty plane. This is a plow plane. It's a modern Veritas version of a traditional plow plane, and it's very light, but it works incredibly well. And I tend to use this. All the adjustments are easy to set up. So I tend to use this for drawer grooves a lot. So it's preset with a 1/4 inch or 3/16 iron, and it's offset to a predetermined width. So I can create drawer grooves with it, and so it works really well. And it's in this case it's a left-hand oriented plane because I am left-handed. So that's another specialty plane. And this is the selection of planes I use. Lately I've restored a series of vintage plow planes, and I use them for the same reason. This has a 3/16 iron. Unfortunately, I don't have a large selection of irons for these. They only came with a 1 iron. Coincidentally, this is the width I use for a drawer groove. So I use this, I preset it, and I tend to use these for grooving. And again, these are three different versions, three different makers. And this is a 1/2 inch iron, and this is a screw arm type of a plow plane with another, I think 3/8 to 1/2 inch iron, and it's offset, so I could use this too. They've all been restored, and they're functional, completely functional. So these are the planes I tend to use in my woodworking, and then of course you should always invest in a block plane. Now, block planes, many woodworkers are not familiar with the two versions of a block plane. The version they're most familiar with is a low angle block plane where the iron sits at a 37-degree angle, 25-degree and a 12-degree bed, 37. This works really well in end grain, and so I use that as much as I use another version of a block plane, which is a standard angle block plane. It's so it's set at 45 degrees with a 20-degree bed and a 25-degree iron, a bevel up iron. This is set at 45, which translates to a very small smoother. So I picked this up also as a one-handed smoother, as much as I use my apron plane. So when I find the apron plane a little bit too small, I'll pick up the standard angle block plane. So I'm not sure if Lee Nielsen, by the way, I'm not sure if Lee Nielsen still makes this. It's a 9.5, number 9.5. And the numbering scheme for that Stanley created, and this is 60.5. So this of course is available from both large manufacturers such as Veritas, Lee Nielsen, and some other more recent manufacturers. And this is more a specialty version of the block plane. So you might want to invest in one of these too if you want to use a one-handed. But premium planes are expensive, and I tend to purchase premium planes. So if you need to purchase one of these, I'd probably buy the low angle version and the block plane. An apron plane isn't that expensive, so you might want to invest in that. And either a number 4 or 4.5 smoother, premium always. You won't regret spending the extra money, because they're easier to adjust. They have thicker metal, thicker irons, and cap irons, and they're just better built. So there's less maintenance to do, less fiddling with adjustments. And this, again, you should purchase a jointer, either a number 7 or a number 8. But I prefer number 7. It's a little lighter than number 8, a little shorter, I think 22 inches or something, or if I'm not mistaken. And but it works equally well as a number 8. Number 8 is a fantastic plane, but it's very heavy and has the additional mass. And if you want to go the wood body route, you can of course make your own, or try to find a wood body version of any of these planes. So I've written a number of books on my woodworking journey and different aspects of woodworking, and this is my journey, my high-tech, from high-tech to low-tech. And these are interesting books. This particular book is about a year, it was published about a year ago, and it's called Quiet Woodworking in an Unquiet World, available at my woodskills.com website in digital or print format. Actually, it's available in print format on Amazon. So it talks about how I moved to hand tools and all the advantages I find with hand tools over using machines, and all the techniques I use in my hand tools with bench hooks and shooting boards and all that. And similar with this book on design to making, another one of my books available at my woodskills.com. So I think we'll end this here, and hopefully I've inspired you to go out and purchase some hand tools and try to become familiar with them. Try to purchase fewer hand tools if you can, and become very familiar with the hand tool itself. You'll enjoy that hand tool much more than just acquiring too many hand tools and not knowing which one to really pick up. And every time you pick it up, you need to relearn how to use it. So I found that out over the years. Just invest in fewer tools, but the tools you'll actually use and the type of woodworking you do, as opposed to just accumulating. Don't forget, this is what you see here is over a 25 to 30 year period of accumulation. So please subscribe to my YouTube woodworking channel, where I share more of my woodworking techniques, my woodworking philosophy, my thoughts on woodworking, and all the challenges I've experienced, and I introduce some of the new forms of woodworking I've discovered. And also visit woodskills.com, where I have a good selection of my books, both in print and digital format, on woodworking, and all my online courses, and I also offer some woodworking plans. I have maintained a regular blog on what I've got going on in my workshop and in woodworking in general. So enjoy.